Every morning I used to open my messages and feel a small wave of dread, not because any single message was bad, but because there were so many of them, scattered across email and a couple of chat apps, and somewhere in that pile were the two or three that actually needed me today. So a few months ago I did something that sounds a little risky when I say it out loud. I let an AI read my incoming messages and draft replies for me, and it genuinely saves me real time every single day. But it only saves me time because of one rule I set on the very first day, and if I ever broke that rule, the whole thing would go from useful to dangerous in about a second. So let me walk you through the entire setup honestly. What it reads, what it writes, the one line it is never allowed to cross, the things I refuse to connect to it at all, and where all those messages actually go. No hype, no doom, just what it is actually like to let an AI sit in front of your inbox. So here is the actual setup. Let me start with what this thing is and is not, because the framing matters more than any clever prompt. This is not some magic inbox that runs my life. It is a small, boring assistant with exactly two jobs. Job 1, it can read my incoming messages across my email and my chat apps. Job 2, it can write a draft reply and leave it sitting there for me. That is the whole machine. And the most important word in that whole description is draft. It can read and it can draft. It cannot send. It cannot delete. It cannot forward anything to anyone. It cannot do a single thing that another human being would ever see. Everything it produces lands in a holding area that only I can act on, and nothing leaves my hands until I have read it and pressed send myself. That one boundary is not a detail. It is the entire reason I am comfortable running this at all, and I will come back to exactly why later. What it is genuinely great at. Now let me tell you what this is actually good for, because honestly it surprised me. The first thing, and the one that gives me back the most time, is simple triage. It sorts what matters from noise. Every morning it looks at everything that came in overnight and it tells me, in plain language, here are the 3 messages that actually need you today. Here is the handful that can wait until the weekend. And here is the pile that is just newsletters and receipts and notifications you can safely ignore. That sounds small. It is not. The hardest part of a full inbox was never the replying. It was the sorting, the deciding, the constant low hum of, is there something in here I am missing? Handing that first pass to something that never gets tired took a real weight off my mornings. The second thing it is great at is summarizing long threads. You know the ones. A conversation that has been going for 2 weeks, 20 messages deep, 3 people added halfway through, and you get pulled in at message 19 and have no idea what was actually decided. I can point the assistant at that whole thread and ask it, in one sentence, what is the current state and what, if anything, are they waiting on from me? And it reads the entire history and gives me a short, honest answer. It is not perfect. Sometimes it misses a bit of tone, or it flattens a joke into something that sounds serious. But for getting up to speed on a long mess in 10 seconds instead of 10 minutes, it is genuinely excellent, and I lean on it constantly. The thing I had to learn here is to treat the summary as a starting point, not the final word. For anything that actually matters, I still skim the real messages myself once the summary tells me where to look, so it is not replacing my reading. It is telling me which 10% of the thread is worth reading closely, which is exactly the part one could never figure out fast on my own. The third thing is drafting that first reply, and this is the one people get most excited about, so let me be careful here. It is very good at writing a solid first draft of a reply. You know the messages that are not hard, they are just friction. Someone asks to reschedule, someone needs a quick yes or no, someone wants a short answer to a clear question. The assistant reads it and writes a perfectly reasonable reply in my general tone, and it sits there waiting. And here is the honest part. Maybe half the time I send it more or less as is, with a small tweak. The other half I rewrite it, because it got the tone slightly wrong, or it agreed to something I did not actually want to agree to, or it missed a piece of context only I had in my head, and that is completely fine. A first draft I edit is still far faster than a blank page I have to start from cold. It is not writing my replies for me, it is removing the friction of starting. Now here is the one rule that makes all of this safe, and this is the heart of the whole video, so stay with me. That assistant can read everything and draft anything, but it can never send or act on the outside world without my explicit yes. Not once. Not for an easy message, not for an obvious yes or no, not even when it is almost certainly right. Nothing it produces ever reaches another human being until a human, me, has read the exact words and pressed send. This is the exact same principle from the video I made about giving an AI access to my whole computer. Reading is low risk. The worst case of reading is that it sees something and tells me about it. Acting on the outside world is a completely different category of risk, because once a message is sent, it cannot be unsent. There is no undo on an email that landed in someone's inbox. So the line I drew is simple and it never moves. Reading is free, drafting is free, sending always needs a human to say yes first. And I want to be honest about why that line is not optional. It is tempting, once this thing has been right 100 times in a row, to think, why am I still in the loop? Let it just send the easy ones. And I understand the pull. But think about what you are actually trading. You would be saving yourself maybe 2 seconds per message, the time it takes to glance and click send. And in exchange, you would be handing a system that gets the tone wrong, some of the time the ability to speak to real people as you, with no chance for you to catch it first. The math is terrible. The time you save is tiny and the worst case is genuinely bad. One confidently wrong message sent to the wrong person in your name that you never saw can do more damage than a month of saved clicks ever made up for. So the human stays in the loop, not because the AI is dumb, it often is not, but because the cost of the rare miss is so much higher than the cost of me reading a draft. There is also a quieter reason I keep the line in place, and it took me a while to put words to it. The moment you let something send on your behalf, you stop reading. That is just human nature. Once you trust the machine to handle the easy ones, you stop opening the easy ones, and you slowly lose touch with what is actually going out in your name. And the easy ones are exactly where a subtle mistake hides, because nobody is checking them. So keeping the send behind my own yes is not only about catching the dramatic disaster, it is about staying connected to my own conversations, so I always know what I have agreed to and what I have said. The 2 seconds I spend reading each draft is not wasted time. It is the thing that keeps me from drifting away from my own inbox entirely. So what do I never connect at all? Drawing the send line is most of the safety, but there is a second layer, and it is about what I let this thing near in the first place. Some things I simply do not connect to it. Full stop, no matter how convenient it would be. Anything genuinely sensitive or money related stays completely off limits. It has no connection to my banking, it cannot see anything financial. It has no access to my passwords or any account that holds money or anything that could move money, and even on the messaging side, the truly private conversations, the personal ones, the legal or medical ones, those are walled off and the assistant never sees them at all. The rule I use is easy to remember. If a message getting read by the wrong eyes or a reply going out wrong could cost me real money or real trust that I cannot get back, then I do not hand that to an assistant, I handle it myself. Convenience is never worth that trade. Which brings me to the part most people skip, privacy. If you are going to let any system read your messages, the single most important question is not how smart it is. It is where do those messages actually go? Because to read your inbox, the words in your inbox have to be processed somewhere, and there are really two answers. One, everything stays on your own machine, processed locally, and nothing ever leaves your computer. Or two, your messages get sent off to a company's servers in the cloud to be processed, and then the results come back. Both of those can be reasonable choices, but they are very different promises, and you have to know which one you are actually signing up for. For the most private stuff, local processing is the only thing I am comfortable with, because the data simply never leaves, nothing to intercept, nothing sitting on someone else's server, nothing that can leak in a breach I had no part in. For lower stakes triage, a reputable cloud service can be fine, as long as you have actually read what they do with your data and how long they keep it. The questions I ask are simple. Do they keep my messages and for how long? Do they use them to train their models? And can I delete everything if I walk away? If the answers are vague or buried, that tells me something on its own. The mistake is not picking one. The mistake is pointing an AI at your entire private inbox without ever asking where those words travel. So before you connect anything, find that answer, in plain words, and if you cannot find it, treat that as your answer. So who should actually try this, and who should wait? Let me be straight, the way I always try to be. If you are comfortable with a little setup, and you genuinely understand the difference between letting something read versus letting it send, this is one of the most useful things you can put in your day. The time it gives back is real and it compounds. But you have to be the kind of person who will actually keep that send line in place, even when it is tedious, even after 100 good drafts in a row. If you would be tempted to let it send the easy ones after a good week, please wait. And if the idea of where your messages go has never crossed your mind until I said it just now, start there before you connect anything. The people who get burned by this are not the careful ones. They are the ones who wired it straight into everything, gave it the ability to send, and pointed it at their most sensitive inbox, all on day one, because it looked easy in a video. Do not be that. Start with read-only triage on the inbox you care about least. Keep every send behind your own yes, and add trust one careful step at a time. So that is what it is actually like to let an AI triage my messages. It is not magic and it is not a threat. It is a fast, tireless assistant that reads my pile, tells me what matters, summarizes the message, and writes me a first draft, and then it stops and waits every single time for me to decide what the world actually gets to see. Used that way, with reading open and every send gated behind my own yes, and with the sensitive things kept well clear of it, it is one of the genuinely useful things I run. The technology is only going to get better at the reading and the drafting, which makes the one rule matter more, not less, because the better the drafts get, the more tempting it becomes to stop checking them. So build a careful habit now, while it is easy to remember why. If you want more honest, hands-on looks at building with AI like this, with the real caveats and none of the hype, subscribe and follow along. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.